Cool. We're on YouTube, Facebook's cool. We are live. We'll let some people get here. If anyone's gonna join in, we'll let them get started.
Yeah, that'll be cool. I like your timing though on this on the Friday 5 o'clock.
Yeah, and that way, like, even
we can
if
do
it's
another one this week, Friday at 5.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's the way to go. That way we stick to our once a week schedule, yes. Even though this one's a touch late. That's we'll
double up this week, twice the fun.
Perfect. What's that?
Nothing. Sorry. None.
Oh, okay. Perfect. All right, we got some viewers now. So, welcome there, Daylight Burners. We are back, and we finally got on the same page, and we're here for the weekly cattle market Raftport with George Raftopoulos and Loma Livestock. George, buddy, how's it going?
Hey, thanks for having me on again, Matt, and sorry for delaying the process here. We'll do it twice this week, but then get on that schedule, that Friday afternoon, evening schedule.
I think so. So we were talking just briefly while you guys were joining, and what we're going to plan on doing is every Friday, 5 o'clock Mountain ish. We'll leave some play in there just to compensate for schedules, but we're going to try to do Friday afternoon. We'll give you the weekly recap, kind of some projections going into the next week, and then we'll bullshit a little bit and send you off into the weekend on a high note, because we're pretty good at that. I do say so myself.
That'd be the best. Well, we're probably the best at it, the whole deal.
I think so. I mean, no doubt about it. But yeah, so I guess what kind of happened last week? I've been a little lax on figuring out what the hell has been going on in the feeder market or cattle market in general.
It's been still kind of like, it's been better, but more this. I mean, a lot of the packing plants like the JBSs, a lot of that news broke last week where they were going to close down for at least a couple weeks, and at this point in time now we're getting ready to maybe open some of those up, although we still hear more closures. So we still got the beef going higher, cattle not exactly following them, not a lot of places to go with the cattle that are ready, but if you want to go on the feeder, there's decent feeder demand. Like they wanted to fill some pins anyways. The price is not what we exactly want for them, and these big cattle are coming out of Oklahoma pretty steady now. But the slaughter plants were the biggest news of last week, I'd call it, and probably into the biggest news of this week, besides oil. Now oil stole the show.
Oh, yeah.
This past couple days, oil has stolen the show.
Yeah, that's for sure. Boy, it was like negative there for a minute, which it's awesome. If you want to buy some gas, they just pay you to take it off their hands. But I don't think it quite works like that. But
it is. I mean, you got to be thinking our input costs are going to be lower. As a cow-calf guy, and the prices are probably going to be we're going to fight to be lower or steady with last year if we can, but looking to be a little lower now, but our input costs are going to be lower. And I think, we can play with that and maybe get the profit margin there.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's, really, I guess what I've kind of been hearing, like the little bit that I've been following, it just like everything's kind of all over the board. And, while the cattle market sucks, like we're not alone. It just like everything kind of sucks right now.
Yeah, it's just kind of in the situation there is. There's a lot of fingers wanted to be pointed, and I get it. Hold on a second. Sorry, let me text this one back.
No worries.
There's a lot of pointing fingers right now. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but honestly, we're kind of like you said. It's a mass. There's a lot of industries kind of struggling right now, and so you got to kind of figure out a way to use your grass, use your stretch, use some imagination, and kind of get through this year as accordingly. Use the rallies and be smart and market into them, kind of like we talked about the last market report. Like I said, right now is probably time to get rid of your 9 weights because this is the time to sell them. The price
Yeah.
isn't great, but there is a market right now for them. We're gonna have a pretty
Mm-hmm.
good run tomorrow in Loma, and I mean, I don't know what the prices for these 9 weights will bring on the steering. The cattle that turn out to grass are pretty good, and we got quite a few pairs that have some value. I mean, you could buy these pairs right here and be pretty happy with them by fall too.
Yeah, it kind of seems like it's it's a good kind of mix. If it's not great to buy, but it's not bad. It's not great to sell, but it's probably about as good as it's going to be for a little while. So it's yeah, I mean it seems like time to move in anyways.
Exactly. I'd like to know, and just for the sake of this podcast too, when the listeners chime in, kind of what they'd like to hear about the market as far as some of that, or what I mean, not as far as advice, but what info kind of affects them the most in front of that, and I could bring more of that to the table as I come on. Like right now, I could just
Yeah, for sure.
touch on a lot of different. Like right now, like the corn market is another one. I mean, that thing is really cheap. Today got down to like 311 in the front month, and so that's probably like 220 corn in the Midwest. Those
Yeah.
ethanol plants closing down, but that takes a protein source out of our feed ration. But
Yep.
that all that's happening right now, and I think there's just so much to digest right now, McKinley. That's why
It
every day
really
it's
is.
a different battle every day.
Yeah, and I think going forward, like we could probably do a daily one and bore the shit
Yes.
out of everybody. But I think I really like this weekly deal going forward,
Yeah.
because you can you get a broad view, kind of like 30,000 foot view of the entire week, and then you can kind of look into some projections going forward, and it's yeah, when you're looking at the market on a day by day basis, like I don't know how those market analysts and like the brokers and everybody, like how they don't just pull, like you yourself, like how you don't just pull your hair out from the root like every day.
Well, I think some people have walked into my office with me doing that one thing. So it doesn't have, and it's to a point now where I need to watch it to keep a pulse on it. That it's like I'd rather watch it than not. But like you're saying, it's not something that needs to be done by. I said one thing, I'd almost donate flip phones to every cow calf guy and producer right now and give me back their smartphones. Don't look at the market. Let me know when you usually sell, and we'll try to get the best price we can then, because
Oh
it just
yeah,
makes you worry so much sometimes too. And like I said, these
yeah, for
things
sure.
change every day. These variables change every day because it's an unforeseen thing. It's a dang near world war with an invisible enemy. I mean, got to
Yeah.
give it some respect. It stinks. You're got to throw some volatility in things.
Oh yeah. Well, it sounds like at least on like the domestic economy, on the broader view, it sounds like Trump's pushing pretty hard to get some of these governors to get people back to work, which I think is a good idea, especially some of these smaller states like Nevada. Colorado's been hit decently hard, but when you get outside the city, it hasn't been a huge issue, and at some point, like you can't just stay inside hiding from it. Like you got to get back out there, or just we're gonna set ourselves back like 100 years. So I think there's some promise going forward, and I guess a big difference between like today and 2008 is all these industries that are kind of shut down right now. There's still a demand for that. So like once they are clear to go, and or or they just start going back to work, government be damned. I think you're going to see some of that too. That there's a market for it. So like, I think this economy will kind of kick back. They won't be back to normal, obviously, but I think it's, we're due for a pretty strong rebound once people start getting back to work.
Yes, I agree. I mean, and the thing is, we need to start going a little bit more, start getting out, feeling that it's okay to do. Like you said, I think there's a lot of green grass coming up around us, around our region, and there's a pretty dang good demand for pairs and turnout replacement yearling kinds. And, why not? I think that's the kind where you got the most time in them, a pair or a heifer to breed. Put them on your
Yeah.
gas, add them to your production, and then try to gain efficiencies through your production, through management.
Yeah, for sure. And I think one of the things I've noticed is like I've got some sort of flack, not a ton, but like some kind of snide comments here and there for like kind of pounding the table for the like direct marketing deal. But I I think there's a big uproar right now, and kind of how it always is against the Packers, and I get it. I'm sympathetic to it, but like you can't just blame your entire shitty situation on the Packers if they're not giving you the price you want, or if it's not trickling down. Like you gotta find another avenue to go, and and there's opportunities to be had without pushing for legislation. I'm not saying that the legislation's won't fix it. I don't know. I'm not a crystal ball seeker, but there's things that you can do right now that could help you. It may not, but it's going to be a little risk. But anything worth a good reward's always got some risk attached to it. So it's you got to be a little creative.
Yeah, and creative in the fact it doesn't have to be direct marketing. But you can be creative in the ways you manage. I mean, you're going to find people. That's why it's great to be in the individuality of the cattle business, not the vertical integration of the pigs and the chickens. I think you have the ability to succeed, and some people are going to have bad luck rolls and not be able to, not any fault of their own. But I mean, I think there'll be some bobbing and weaving to get through all, what I mean? There's opportunities, all this, and the stayability in some of these places will be tested, but I think we'll come out hardened like steel. And just like I said, with these bred females and these pairs and stuff like that, some with a little more stretch to them, especially if you got the grass, hay should be a little cheaper. Diesel should be a little cheaper, to farm it, to put it up. All that your freight should be a little cheaper. Yeah. So.
Yeah, for sure. I'd say, your freight bill is going to be, I mean, we here in Nevada, we got pretty high fuel prices compared to, Colorado or Wyoming, Oklahoma. But we had bought unlead for $1.84 the other day, which is, unheard of. So that's, it sucks for the oil and gas guys, but hell, they get paid most of the time anyways. So it's time for the normal guy to get a little break on his fuel bill. So it's there's always some silver lining. There's always a way to get around some of the certain situations. You just gotta think outside the box a little bit, and
don't and the Packer. I'll say one thing about the Packer. The Packer would love to kill right now, in my opinion, with those kind of margins. It's just he's blindsided by the same deal. I mean, don't think that he knew exactly what COVID was going to do to the whole deal. So I think there is, but like you said, there's got to be creative. And now we all got to work because we all got to figure out how to time it out. But be creative in your management and don't make emotional decisions, although it's so hard in these scenarios. You got to be sharp to the pencil again and do your numbers. And then make good management decisions, and you're not gonna get the highest or the lowest. I mean, you're gonna make mistakes. We all are throughout this whole process. We always do. It's kind of like ranching is. You know what I mean? I mean, we'll be sharp to the pencil. I think get some with some length, and I mean, it'll be interesting throughout this summer. But like I said, every day it changes. So every week we'll have a new update and they'll be thinking, what the hell is this George talking about? Was he talking about the exact opposite last time? I mean, but the like for this week's market monitoring thing, it's at daily slaughter. And like today, daily slaughter was pretty dang low. So that's, I mean, they're backing slaughter up quite a bit every day, it
Yeah,
seems like. So we need to see that trend turn around.
for
McKinley. And
sure.
that, you know,
Yeah, and there's, it's one of those things that, like you said, this time, for all the faults those Packers have,
yes.
this one's not on them. It's just
Yeah.
it's a pandemic. Shit happens.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I
That's true.
I have no problem throwing some shade at the Packers. I mean, I really don't. But this one's not deserved. I mean, it is what it is. When you're making money hand over fist like they have been, they want some cattle on the chain. But
Yes.
it's just it's not happening right now. So
Yeah, exactly. That's something we just want to watch, those estimated daily slaughters production numbers going forward every day. That's what the market will be watching.
yeah,
I think there's some demand and there is some optimism. So there's two sides to every market, but we'd like to see that slaughter number turn around sooner rather than later, I guess I would say.
yeah, and I think this could be a pretty big moment for some of your like local and regional Packers as well. To be able
Absolutely
to
huge.
yeah, they whatever they got to do. There's a lot of people not working right now, and packing plant is most definitely an essential business. So if you're looking for something to do, and you got a smaller packing house, ramp that chain speed up, and you might be able to
Yep.
help everybody out, get some money in your pocket at the same time.
And that's what I want to do through Loma Live this week. We're bringing 3 or 4 fed steers, and so
Nice.
calling some of these local guys, these local packs, these real local guys buying them. And so hopefully I
Mm-hmm.
can bring 4 or 5 or 10 a week, and then get those local guys filled out. Maybe that gets bigger. Maybe
Yeah.
I think the regional will get bigger. And I do think the push is probably for less people in one spot. So maybe you see
Mm-hmm.
these, like you said, these kills up. I think
Yeah.
it'll backfill and be a good thing. It's just we're going to have to kill through some cattle and be creative how we get our money
Mm-hmm.
this year, how you hit the markets.
Yeah, absolutely. And as far as on a legislative point, like I know there's a lot of folks pushing for this 30% negotiated cash settlement at each facility on a 14-day delivery. I'm still up in the air as whether or not I think it's a good idea or not. I think it shows promise. It just comes down to the enforcement of it. So I'm still up in the air on that. But one thing you can do is lobby for to repeal some of these restrictions and regulations on the regional local packers.
Yes.
Using a state inspector instead of a USDA inspector to sell across state lines. Anything that makes it easier to harvest some beef, that's going to help the cow-calf guy even,
You hit the nail on the head. That's how you bring back negotiated cash. Make it easier for these, or make it easier for these grocery stores even to grind their own meat, do something different like they used to, so they could present different cuts. Make that easier. You'll see my barn have bigger bids for fed cattle in the cash market because some of these guys that kill 5 or 10 or maybe 20 a day are in it. And then you're actually having a competitive bid against the big guys, and that all happens. Because I think cash negotiation would be a huge fix to the deal. Like I said, legislation's hard to make it happen, but pull the regulations down. Go into regulations to pull them away instead of add them. Let's subtract.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Free up the regulation on these smaller guys. It's gonna increase the competition, and it's gonna make those big four. They're still gonna have a vast majority gonna be formula fed cattle, but they're gonna have to compete a little bit to optimize their kill, and it's good for everybody.
that extra 10-20% is the whole thing. It's a
Mm-hmm.
good for everybody deal. And you know what it usually comes out of is necessity.
Yeah.
So out of necessity in the great American kind of way of capitalism and
Mm-hmm.
finding a way, hey, we can make this work. There's margin there. Let's
Oh
do
yeah.
it. Let's amp up our stuff. That's what'll bring a lot of that out of is just putting the faith back into these regional guys, because they'll put the faith back into themselves and use some of this unemployment, because there is a lot
Yeah.
of people unemployed. Use some of these unemployed and put them to work,
Yeah.
and away we go.
Yeah. And it's going to be one of those things that it may not be a real high paying job, but hell, it's a lot better than nothing.
Used to be
You
the
got your,
work. Yeah.
yeah, you got your stimulus money, but who knows if that's coming around again? And probably honestly shouldn't. But uh, you know, in the meantime, there's work to be had if you look hard enough. So
Well, and back in the, there used to be a pretty dang good job working meat, cutting meat, because it's
oh
kind of a
yeah,
skilled job, and to an extent too, especially when you're cutting steaks and fabbing,
mm-hmm.
you
Oh
know.
yeah, absolutely.
And at this kind of margin, they can actually pay too.
Yeah, exactly. And I had a guy from Kentucky was telling me, like whitetail season is huge. So there's a lot of guys with like a walk-in cooler or something, if you got a cooler sitting empty, put the word out there, process a couple beeves and make yourself a little extra on the any little bit helps.
If you wanted
The
to do
demand
that
for
deal,
that
yeah,
product is there.
is there. If you want to hit it that way, hit it that way. But there's still ways to make it without even doing that. But it's just like you
Yeah.
said, the biggest thing you said this at this talk, I think, is reducing regulations on these regional packs, and maybe going back to where grocery stores can cut and grind their own beef to
Absolutely.
make it easier and make their margins better on this stuff, instead of having their hostage to the box beef as well. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I
Yeah,
mean,
and then people like a local butcher too. I mean, it's so if you got one in the grocery store, that just that brings more interest, to that grocery store too. It's a win all the way around.
that's where my interest is. If we get the regulations, because I want to build these local and regional guys. I'd rather see them build up, and then them have a bid for the market, like the Loma market, and then
Mm-hmm.
them distribute and stuff. But up distribute them the cattle. Everybody kind of plays a part. I think it'd help us all.
Oh yeah, I think so. And like I said, it just takes a little bit of ingenuity and yeah, the big thing is like call your representatives, call your senators, and I don't know. Like I know U.S. Cattlemen's had that bill to, and basically what it was just to allow a state inspection rather than a USDA inspection to be able to market across state lines. And that's huge because those USDA inspectors are expensive and there's not a whole lot of them. So it makes sense. And so call your elected officials and let them know, hey, we need this. So it's a good thing for the industry as a whole.
Oh, absolutely. That'd be something you'd want to call your representatives about and say that I think that's something working towards a goal, instead of just working against, like, the packer, all that. I think,
Mm-hmm.
do some of this to help these other packers,
Yep.
these other guys, and it'll help you. I mean, something that doesn't seem like it'll help you at all will help you tremendously by helping that processing part of it.
Yep. Absolutely. Because it's going to allow more players in the game. And the more players in the game, the more everybody has to compete, because there is a finite amount of cattle. There's a lot of them, but it's still a finite amount. And they got to go somewhere. So the more people there are.
And sometimes they're more, sometimes they're less. Let the cash market decide. That's why the
Yep.
auction's a great place to sell cattle. Get two
Yep.
or three more in here. You're going to find the cash market that day. That's why
Yep.
the solution to all of our problems is something that we've already done. And that's
Yep.
make it simpler and do a lot of
Mhm.
this. None of this hybrid equations that need to be mandated. Just
Yep.
just lower the regulations and watch the American people come to life. especially on that regional local end.
Yeah, because then that'll lead to expansion of those plants where they can pump a few more through. That helps your fabricators, that helps your electricians, that helps. I mean, it's good for the economy as a whole, not just the cattle economy. It's good for everybody.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I agree, McKinley.
I think we're on to something, George. Solving problems one report at a time.
At least we can talk about it. And I'll have some good info for you on Friday with a lot of good market reports from our sale. We'll have a good market test of the pairs and everything. So Friday evening, we'll all have some good stuff, and we'll see how everything ends up.
Perfect. And if you're in the Loma, Colorado area tomorrow, swing by Loma Livestock.
Also,
check it out there.
Also, we're on DV Auctions now. Our first sale tomorrow, DV Auctions. We're really excited to be on DV Auctions. So log on dvauctions.com, click on Loma Livestock, and you guys can watch it from the comforts of your own home or on your phone.
Perfect. And that starts at 10 o'clock, right?
It starts at 10. We'll have weigh cows and bulls at 10, feeders immediately following. We won't start pairs before 12:30, and then we'll go pairs, bred cows, and breeding bulls.
Perfect. Well, I will. I'll try to find the link on DV Auction. I'll share it on the Burning Daylight page. You can watch that there. And yeah, it's a good thing you got going on there, George. I like it.
You too, buddy. Well, I guess we better get our asses moving, huh? Because we're burning daylight.
You bet. All right, fellas. That's all for the weekly Cattle Raftport. Tune back in 5 o'clock on Friday, 5 o'clock Mountain Time, and we'll do it again.
See you guys then.
Adios.